Warning, this review will contain spoilers, and if you haven't seen the episode in the last 4 days and decide to go past this point, it's your own fault, so don't get mad at me. Will a story about the release of a tell-all book be a 5-star critical acclaimed success or a 1-star flop? The thing is, the answer may seem obvious, but it'll be more complex once you do a little digging. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the return of Pones N Stuff. They say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but when I read the synopsis for this episode, I was fully expecting one that surrounded how fame and greed can corrupt those around you. That sounds entirely predictable and boring, right? Well, instead, Fame and Misfortune took my assumptions and unveiled itself as something completely different. Yes, an episode that could have been tepid, insidious and monotonous was the complete opposite thanks to the biting satire of one M.A. Larson, and seeing as it focused on his relationship with bronies and fan culture in general, I probably should have seen it coming from his warped mind. But when I look at what he actually highlighted in this episode, I don't know whether he's a genius or an out-and-out sadist. And when you list them, it becomes painfully apparent that each of the main 6 and many characters in this episode represent aspects of fan communities and the creator-consumer relationship that make this episode about an autobiographical book release much more introspective, smart, and damning in its realism than one would imagine from a Y-rated show about magical talking ponies. Twilight is the creator, trying to come to terms of how others are interpreting their work, while also having to stand up to people not being able to disassociate fact from fiction. Rarity is the star, whose words are taken out of context, leading to a social activist-style hate campaign, and of course a ruined career to go with it. Pinkie Pie is a star whose on-screen character and real-life one are seen as the same, leading to a heightened expectation of the former and lacking on a lot of insights in the other. Rainbow is a star who's hounded by the paparazzi and quote-unquote loyal fans who would willingly ruin her if they don't get what they want in return for their support, leading to her creative stagnation. Fluttershy is a showcase of fans not being satisfied when things either don't change to what they want, or deviate from the source material. Applejack has to cater to her fanbase, not wanting to abandon them because they're all she has, playing into how the show got popular in the first place. Starlight Glimmer is the outsider, unsure of why people act the way they do around something while supporting the side that they believe is right. Tula Ruler and Coconut Cream are the fans that most creators want, hoping to just take something from the text in question and learn from it, while the Cutie Mark Crusaders are creators inspired by the work of others, deciding to make a camp or convention from it, which is foreshadowing what will happen in Marks and Recreation later on this season. And most importantly of all, warring factions complaining about controversial plot points and not believing people can relate to characters that they personally don't. Oh yeah, don't forget about the collectors either. No one wants to forget about them. As you can see, it's a lot sprinkled out across the entire episode, but together as one seismic piece of satire, this is some absolutely stunning writing that for many fan communities in popular media is either confirmation of what they already know or a stark wake-up call for all to see. With a steady pace as the backbone for it all to unveil itself, it's not executed in a pandering and rushed fashion, allowing the visual themes and representations to resonate with the viewer. And while it may have been hilarious on first viewing that Larson would have had the balls to have put this to script, on its second viewing, it's just depressing and sad that people could act like this. This is most likely the message that Larson himself would have wanted to imply, but instead of dampening on what's been presented, it makes you really sit and think, which is something that not many episodes of this show have done. This unbelievable writing was supported by awesome continuity and the already alluded to foreshadowing of a future episode, as well as making a message about taking people's words to heart have a deeper meaning than anticipated, as it wraps everything together in one nicely executed package. While flawless, the episode's musical number is the ribbon and bow that ties it all together by bringing the glorious message of self-confidence and finding positives in one's imperfections to the forefront, while also representing the creator standing up to the faults and upsides of the collective fighting mass that took the work out of context to begin with. There's a lot to take in, but my god, it works to make this episode insanely memorable, while leaving me in awe of it, making me question it just as much at the same time. While all the attention has gone to M.A. Larson's cannibalistic musings, the marvellous musical number and the magisterial message that all came with it, I feel that the rest of this episode disappoints in comparison to what has already come before it. Because when I look at everything, it feels like it was half finished. There are cracks everywhere, and while they're attempted to be papered over, some of these negative aspects remain to harm this episode's eventual final rating. While the story of fan hysteria and its consequences made sense, to have Spike curiously absent as well as having it end openly were the wrong decisions to make, as it left a vital part of the show's cast out in the cold surrounding moral lessons that he partially helped write, I might remind you, and unequivocally highlight that we don't have enough time to see the Princess of Friendship show her leadership qualities and try to defuse a social problem. Now, while Flawless showed her and her Knights of the Cutie map attempt to do so, to leave us high and dry neglected the narrative structure and left a gaping hole in storytelling proceedings. And while that aforementioned musical number was incredible, it left the rest of the animation outside of some stunning facial expressions, Starlight's book copying ability, and the new Philly stylings feeling quite lifeless. The background music didn't fare much better either, making very little effort in comparison to its grandiose partner in the same category, while most of the voice acting didn't go above pedestrian outside of a few great performances. Tara Strong and Tabitha St. Germain, I am looking in your direction. And the thing is, the style may be missing from this episode, but thankfully, there's more than enough substance to help keep itself afloat. Therefore, as a result, this episode has performed well, but leaves me unsure of how it's managed to do so much but leave a lot just as unrefined. When you take away the self-aware continuity, satire of fandom cultures, and a lovely musical number, this episode doesn't have a leg to stand on, so to see it do as good as it has done is well deserved despite the fact its flaws are out in the open for all to see. And I know I've massaged M.A. Larson's ego throughout this review, so there's no need for me to highlight the best parts of this episode again, because by now you know what they are. And while his crusade against negative fan ethics was lovely to see, it does make me wonder why this episode was done in 2017 and not 2013 at the height of the Brony fandom's size and popularity, where this kind of episode with its themes, messages and morals was actually needed, because that time has long passed and it makes it feel a little dated in spite of how relevant its subject feels across popular media culture today. And not just that, it overwhelmed everything else into submission, leaving me bemused as to what else it could have done to make it feel more well-rounded, as it didn't stray from the course that it set itself. All in all, while the story, writing and message do stand tall, it's the animation and music that let this episode down and remove it from what would be presumed as a lofty pedestal. It was a good, fun and simplistic romp that was a million times better than it had any right to be, but it wasn't out and out great. It played its ace masterfully, but needed a more resolutely stable hand to convince me that it couldn't fold under the pressure of what it executed. It may not have done so, but it came mighty close. Overall, Fame and Misfortune scored a total of 17 out of 25, which is a B-. In closing, I feel that Fame and Misfortune is the combination of two prior episodes that, when meshed together, formulate this unbelievable slate of incredible self-aware substance. When you look at Slice of Life from Season 5 with its absurd fan pandering, and of course Season 6's Stranger Than Fanfiction for the over-the-top critical analysis and trope subversion that is on display, you inevitably get something akin to this. An episode that is making me feel in absolute awe of it and its glorious work, but then it also makes me question my personal standing towards this show, because I'm one of those over-the-top criticising fans that M.A. Larson took a shot at here. So do I have to change the way I think just to embrace this show, this Y-rated, colourful kids show, as just a nice, simple bit of fun that I can just enjoy? Or do I just keep making these videos because I have a lot of fun picking it apart from top to bottom? I think I'll go with the latter, and logically we end up at an impasse. I'm just hoping that I'm not one of those people who does just take the things I like and shove it in other people's faces, because if I did, I think I'd be slightly more aggrieved, and M.A. Larson would not agree with that. But I'm fine taking my opinion and shoving it in your faces here on this YouTube-ness, because if it wasn't, Logically, I wouldn't know what else I'd be doing with myself. Ladies and gentlemen, Pones N Stuff will return next Wednesday as per usual, and if you don't want to miss on the next episode, click the subscribe button down there, follow on the CC Network Twitter at CCNetworkYT, and all will be good, as next week we have a triple threat to deal with, and it's going to be quite a battle royale indeed. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people watching, this has been the returning episode of Pones N Stuff for the CC Network, and I will see you all next time.